Children, some as young as 6 years old, showing up in a Watertown emergency room suffering from heart problems and blood clots. What's causing it? Health officials say it's vaping, electronic cigarettes, and it gets worse if a kid is vaping marijuana. Here's 7 News reporter Chad Charette.
As the school year kicks off, teachers will see textbooks and pencils, along with something they probably don't want to see: electronic cigarettes.
It has exploded. This industry has exploded. And that's the public health crisis right now.
A survey done by Pivot in Watertown last year showed that approximately 25% of students grades 7 to 12 reported using electronic cigarettes, or vaping. We are told that number is expected to continue growing for a number of reasons.
One is peer pressure, but also because our community members are unaware of the short and long-term effects of these substances.
One of the most universal effects, nicotine addiction, since a single vape cartridge has as much of the stuff as a pack of cigarettes. Anita Seafried Brown with Pivot tells us that can damage developing minds.
Anything we take into our bodies that affects that development of the brain can have very serious consequences.
In certain cases, vaping has caused physical issues as well. Samaritan has had to treat children as young as 6 suffering from nicotine toxicity.
Younger folks using these devices are having heart attacks and strokes and getting blood clots, no different than cigarette use.
In the case of dab pens, which people use to vape high concentrations of THC, even more severe symptoms have been seen locally.
Students and young adults are presenting to our emergency department acutely psychotic, hallucinating, needing to be restrained for their safety.
Vapes have only been on the market since 2003. Officials fear that more long-term effects could come to light in the future. Chad Charette, 7 News.